What's up guys, this is Pink Across. Today I'm going to be rating and fixing my viewers' teams and then rating them again after my changes. First, I'm going to go over some rules for this. So number one, we are talking solely about competitive viability today. If you've got fun teams or gimmick teams, this is not really the place to submit them. It's not saying you shouldn't do that, but this is going to be strictly competitive analysis. Number two, I'm going to be rating each team on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 to 2 being a near guaranteed loss at a top level, 2 to 4 being a likely loss at a top level, 5 to 6 is decent but needs some work, 7 to 8 is a very strong team with a few flaws, and 9 to 10 is extremely strong with almost no flaws. And rule number 3, I'm not going to be changing the key Pokemon or goal of the team when fixing it. We're not going to remove the star, we're not going to replace a bunch of creative Pokemon with a Kingambit, even if it would make the team better. We are going to maintain the original identity and optimize the team within those constraints. The original teams and the fixed teams Pokepastes will all be in the description. I'm also going to be going over stronger submissions than usual today, so these are going to be some of the best ones I picked out among the submissions I saw. Let's get right into it. Up first, we have an Unaware Clodsire Hazard Stack by Albie379. Starting off here, we just have a Iron Defense Spike Skarmory, pretty standard Galarian Slowking, standard Boots Meowscarada. Bit creative here, we got an Unaware Clodsire. Normally you only see Unaware Clodsire on stall, so the Stealth Rock user of choice on this team is a little bit unconventional. Then we have Rotom here, running Foul Play, which is an unconventional option to stop some of those physical setup sweepers. And lastly, we've got a Great Tusk here for removal. So there were a couple things I added issue with this team. I ended up giving it a rating of 6 out of 10, and one of the big reasons for that is the Kyurem matchup. The Kyurem situation with this team is pretty terrible. I faced one on ladder and just got absolutely run over when testing this team. So your only real switch-in is Slowking. Rotom gets 3-shot even by Ice Beam, and it really can't touch Kyurem in return, so going into it doesn't really get you a lot of ground. This gets 2-shot by Blizzard as well, which it's given Kyurem is paired with Glowking over half the time, they're probably going to have an opportunity to chilly reception and click Blizzard. And given that this hazard stack is a pretty slow-paced team, Kyurem has tons of opportunities to come in. It can come in on Skarmory, it can come in on Clodsire, it can come in on Rotom, it can come in on Great Tusk, and all you have to switch in is this poor Glowking. So if you can get a Sludge Bomb poison, that's really the only way you can take out a Kyurem. Another problem I had was just the longevity of most team members compared to Rotom. So you've got this Skarmory, Glowking, Clodsire core that can last forever, and then you've just got this Rotom here, which is, it's pulling a lot of weight. This Rotom is doing important stuff, it is the fire resist of the team. So if you're switching into a Cinderace, for example, this thing is not liking taking Pyro Balls into Libero U-turns, and this Skarmory, Glowking, Clodsire core is going to survive way longer than a Rotom without recovery, Pay and Split, or even Protect. The other thing I had an issue with was the fact that since you don't have any priority on this team, and the only Unaware Pokemon is very specially defensive and not that physically bulky, if you have a physical setup sweeper that has some way to get around Skarmory, you're probably toast. I got cooked by a DD Terraflying Taunt Roaring Moon on ladder, which is not a particularly uncommon set, and really anything with Terra Ghost that can set up on Skarmory is probably going to run through the team as well. Running Terra Ghost on physical setup sweepers to get around Iron Defense Body Press is definitely a trend that's getting more popular, so some sweepers caused me concern. And one last thing I wanted to mention was that the Foul Play on Rotom is just not that effective. For example, against the threat like Gouging Fire, especially even the Breaking Swipe sets, needs to set up to +4 before your Foul Play is even 2-shotting. So just generally with how a lot of the sweepers are in the tier right now, Foul Play Rotom is kind of a fake answer to physical setup, and it's not that bulky of a Pokemon. With 50 HP and no recovery, by the time they decide to pop the physical setup sweeper on you, you're probably going to get killed by the time Rotom comes in, and it probably won't have the health to effectively Foul Play and take anything on. Now, I did see a solution to this. So one thing I noticed right away was how close this team was to a heavy-duty boot spam team already. And that gave me an idea. So I wanted to replace Rotom with something that would have a lot more longevity. So I switched it out for an Alomomola. I was thinking that would give something that could match the longevity of the other team members and just not die so early and not get chipped nearly as easily. Also created a nice double regen core with Glow King. So I decided to go Boots on this, and I'll explain why later, because I'm going to end up removing this Great Tusk. I felt like we had a good defensive core already, and the Great Tusk wasn't really contributing much to the team, and we could just add Boots to Clodsire and really get rid of the need for having Rapid Spin anyway. So I went with Flip Turn, Scald, Protect, nothing too crazy here. Now on this, you don't actually want to run max HP, so you want to run max Special Defense, and the reason for this is that bulk is, to put it simply, calculated by multiplying HP and defenses. So when you have a massive HP stat and really low defenses, it's actually better to just invest in the defenses. And with this massive HP anyway, the Wish is still going to be restoring more than enough for the teammates. Now, what this opened up for me to do, now that I've gone full boot spam and gotten rid of the need to have Rapid Spin, I could then add a Boots Kingambit in the last slot. So this gives priority, which is really nice because it deals with the Terra Flying Ruin Moons and the Terra Ghost Pokemon that will take advantage of Skarmory. And it just adds this really nice looming threat in the back as well. Just a pretty standard set here. I wanted to go bulk here. This also helps with Goldengo, which is really nice. And the Alomomola assists with the previous issue of Gliscor a lot as well. I like Terra Flying on these guys. I also just like to make Pokemon female so they don't get cute charmed on. And the last thing I wanted to change was this Meowscarada's Terra type to Fire. You're really relying on this Meowscarada to break on this team, especially after the changes I've made. Alomomola, Kingambit are a bit more passive than Great Tusk plus Rotom Wash, and with hazards up, this thing is almost unbeatable, but if you face a Volcarona or a Flame Body Pokemon, you don't want to just be in a very bad losing position, so having Terrafire as a get out of that option is a really, really good thing to have. So ultimately, this did extremely well in testing. I was incredibly impressed with it, and it's definitely actually going into my arsenal of teams I'll use for more serious games. This hazard stack was just really good. Oh, and one last thing on Alomomola, because we don't have a spin blocker, go Ghost on that. Also nice if you need to resist random body press setup Pokemon. I would give this team, after my changes, a 8.5 out of 10. I was really, really impressed with how it did in testing. Before I move on to the next team, if you guys are enjoying the video, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Also, I offer one-on-one tutoring to improve your Pokemon skills. The link to sign up is in the description, so please check that out if you're interested. Let's take a look at team number 2. Okay, here we have a Primarina Balance by Slikkles. So starting off once again with a Skarmory, we got a bit of a hazard stack team here. And then next up, a Stealth Rock Rapid Spin Tusk, Banded Rillaboom, Weavile here with SD, Axel, pretty typical set. Nice Terra Ground Morning Sun bulky Volcarona, and a really bulky AV Primarina. So the number one problem I had with this team was the stall matchup. This team has absolutely nothing for stall, and when you face it, you will get completely run over. I didn't run into any in testing, but I can tell by looking at this, it will not have a good matchup. The only hazard setters you have are easily defogged on by Corviknight, and the only really way you have to break a stall team would be Rillaboom, which definitely cannot break a stall team without the benefit of knockoff plus Stealth Rock Chip on the opposing Corviknight. So overall, I don't think this team has a functional stall matchup. It's not ideal. It can work to have Rapid Spin and Stealth Rock on your Tusk, but if it can be avoided, it's good. And also, one other concern I had was the breaking power on this team. Felt like you have a defensive core that's not that difficult to dismantle, and a lot of shorter term walls, like Primarina is not going to be around forever, and yet it's defensively really structurally important, and it feels like Weavile and Rillaboom can take a long time to break. So I found one answer to all of these issues, which was taking out this Volcarona and replacing it for a Heatran. So what this does is it gives you another Stealth Rock setter, so you can take this off of Tusk, which is nice. And that's going to actually be a big deal, because what that means is now you can get Stealth Rock up on Corviknight. Tusk just gets defogged easily by Corviknight. Heatran can get Stealth Rock up on almost anything, and once you have rocks up, then you can really start wreaking havoc with Rillaboom, U-Turn, Knockoff. With those hazards up, you can really start to threaten a stall team, especially with this Psychic Noise Primarina. And on this Heatran, the other good thing this does is, now Volcarona kind of did this as well, but with Flame Body plus Terra Ghost, you end up with a really solid answer to bulk up, Iron Defense Zamazenta, which is always a concern. I'd always just like to make this outspeed King Gambit, so you never know, or we might as well outspeed Gliscor, and just put the rest in defense there. Yeah, so this will give you a pretty good way of dealing with Iron Defense Body Press Zamazenta, which is really good to have since you only have 2 special attackers and both of them don't have recovery. So if these 2 both drop, you're going to get swept by the Zamazenta. One other thing I'd say is Terra Steel on this, also just making Pokemon female, but Terra Steel on this is a good idea because you have an AV set that's very defensively inclined. You're going to want to enhance its defense with a Terra type like Steel a lot more often than you're really going to want the power boost of having that boost to the Moonblast with Terra Fairy. I would also say Liquid Voice. I like the Psychic Noise being a water type move, but it's pretty much personal preference. You could definitely run Torrent as well, and that would be just fine. This definitely improves the stall matchup, and I would say after it, with the original rating 5.5, I would say it moves up to a 6.5. Still didn't do great in testing, and I'm a little bit concerned just about the team's ability to break quickly compared to the kind of frail and temporary defensive cores it has, but definitely has a better stall matchup, and I think is a more consistent team overall with Heatran. Lastly, we have a Skeledirge balance by Pipsquik here. Starting off with a Banded Rillaboom, next up a Amnesia Water Absorb Clodsire, the classic Garganacl, Corviknight here with just the Roggy Helmet, Speedy set for King Gambit, a mixed specially defensive Skeledirge, and a Boots Zamazenta. So the first thing I noticed was this Amnesia. You have another Unaware Pokemon, and your team seems generally really well structured for dealing with sweepers. I couldn't imagine what Amnesia is for. I mean, you've already got Terra Dark for stored power users. I don't really see this being helpful. I think Spikes would be a lot better suited for the team. So getting Spikes also just gives Clodsire something guaranteed it can do. Like your Amnesia Toxic Earthquake set just gets walled by Corviknight. Now if you have Spikes, you can at least do something no matter what, unless they have a Hatterene or something. But definitely just having a Hazard move on there makes Clodsire a lot less passive of a Pokemon. And something else I noticed was that this team seems like so close to a heavy-duty boot spam. So I figured out you would just make the transition, because at the moment, you've got some Pokemon that are going to be taking hazard damage, like a Rillaboom, like Garganacl, and playing the hazard game I think would be a lot more successful for this team. So I actually wanted to swap out Rillaboom for a Meowscarada, and even though this removes your priority, given that you've got a Unaware Pokemon in Skeledirge and just really solid walls for the rest of your team, I figured you could probably go without priority and still do quite well against sweepers. Just a standard set on here. U-Turn, Knockoff, Axel, Flower Trick. Same reason with the previous team, because this Meowscarada is a really important breaker to your team. I do want to go with Fire. I also like that this gives you speed control that doesn't force your Zamazenta to lose that Dauntless Shield too early. And as I said, the boot spam plan can make that heavy-duty boots, make this heavy-duty boots. Another thing I wanted to change, partly because Raging Bolt is scary, and mainly just because I think your team is really solid defensively with this Corviknight Zamazenta, I would personally go max special defense Skeledirge here. Also with the Will-O-Wisp, nice to have. You could consider going more defensive in Garganacl. That's something you'd have to do a lot of test games and just kind of see how mixed you want this Garganacl to be, but overall Terra types are pretty good. And yeah, with this double hazard core, with this Meowscarada knockoff and this whole system here, you actually have a pretty good shot against a lot of playstyles, with this Zamazenta being a great hazards cleaner as well. So Initially, I would have given this team a 5.5, but after these improvements, kind of turning it into this boot spam hazard stack build with Corviknight as your knockoff absorber, I would give this team a 7.5. My only real concern is potentially the stall matchup. Your only real way to break stall is hazards plus Meowscarada, and you can get Stealth Rock up on Corviknight, which is nice with this Salt Cure here, but I'm still a bit concerned. Stall teams are definitely aware of Meowscarada and sometimes are quite ready for it, so if you're facing a stall that has something like say like a Terra Ice Sticky Hold Hydrapple, which has been going around, you're not really going to have a way to break that stall, and they don't have a great way of breaking you either, but given that you don't have any regenerator Pokemon, that's probably a game stall will eventually win, and that's really my only concern though. This team did extremely well in testing. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.